Hello and welcome to the Literary Lair. Hello.
Michael.
What?
I'm making some last-minute adjustments to the transporter, and I need another set of hands. Nobody knows it better than you.
Can't it wait?
The stabilizer is on the fritz. I don't know if I'll be stable enough when you're done.
Alright, but I really don't want to skip a week. I've done that too much this year.
Why not get a replacement host?
Replacement host?
Get someone to fill in. Why don't you ask one of your friends?
My non-reviewer friends wouldn't know what to do, and my reviewer friends are busy with their own shows.
What about Scarab? That's sort of what you built him for anyway.
Not a bad idea, but that's not gonna work. Scarab is off on assignment this week. Maverick told me that he's under complete radio silence.
Speaking of Maverick, why not him?
Why not him? Mike Sano. He's a suave super spy who fights interdimensional evil. He wouldn't know the first thing about reviewing. And even if he did, he wouldn't want to waste his time with my stupid hobby.
Trust me, sometimes you don't know people as well as you think you do. Give him a call.
Fine, but you're gonna look real dumb when he says no. I owe to call Maverick and put it up on the screen. Aye, master. Michael, what's going on? I sort of have a little issue here. I was wondering if you would be interested in filling in for me on the show this week. I know it's dumb and all, but I'll do it. Wait, you will? Of course, I've been waiting for you to ask me to fill in for ages. I'll be right over. That's great, thanks. Mike Sano and I will be in the lab, so just get started when you get here. Are you in the midst of a theme month or something, or do I have free reign to pick the book? Free reign. I think I know just the book to do. I'll be right over. Hello and welcome to the Literary Lair. The name's Maverick. Michael needed a day off, so he asked me to fill in, and I obliged him. Like Mike, I love classic television, though where Michael tends to go for hospital shows, I like to go with spy shows, and one of my favorite classic shows is The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Maybe it's because I can identify with the spy lifestyle, or the fact that the show featured several guest appearances from future Star Trek actors, including having both William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy in the same episode. But seeing Napoleon Solo and Ilya Kuryakin saving the world from Thrush is one of my favorite things to do. However, my first exposure to the show wasn't from the TV series, or a novel. It was actually from the recent remake/reboot movie starring Armie Hammer and Henry Cavill, which was actually pretty good, and it led to me watching and enjoying the classic series starring Robert Vaughn and David McCallum. So imagine my shock and amazement that there were novels based on the show back in the 60s when it was airing, and not just novelizations like Doctor Who had, actual new stories told in the universe of the show. Now this one was pretty tough to track down, but I managed it, and here we are, with the second novel released by Ace Books. It was written by a guy named Harry Whittington, who, according to my research, was mostly known for pulpy, hard-boiled detective novels, and that he also wrote another licensed novel based on the Western series Bonanza. So can a pulp and one-time Western writer manage to capture the feeling of a spy-based television series? Does the novel bring something that couldn't have been shown on the small screen for Man from U.N.C.L.E. fans to enjoy? Will we be lost because we haven't read book number 1? Let's find out. This is the Doomsday Affair. The cover is bad. I mean, it's super 60s and dated, with it being a mostly white cover with a lot of orange and pink, which to me is just not an attractive color combination. We've got the logo on top with the title underneath it, and a little blurb about it and images of our heroes in below it. But it's two disjointed publicity shots, one of which I feel I can't take seriously because it reminds me of a certain music video and brings in visions of Robert Vaughn licking a sledgehammer. And the one of Kuryakin is just a really small photo of him that's washed out in an orange rectangle. The back is slightly better, with it still having the orange on a publicity shot of Robert Vaughn, with a little summary of the book above it. Overall, the cover is crap. Let's get to the story. So let's get some backstory in. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. was a television series airing 105 episodes between 1964 and 1968, with the first season being produced in black and white, despite color television being on the rise. The series revolves around the late Robert Vaughn as Napoleon Solo, the first suave badass in history with the last name Solo, who works for an organization called U.N.C.L.E, which stands for the United Network Command for Law and Enforcement, along with his partner Ilya Kuryakin, played by David McCallum. And with that, we have a Scotsman playing a Russian in an American television series. It's like Ramirez from Highlander all over again. He is, of course, notable for being one of the first big Russian TV characters on American airwaves, predating Pavel Chekhov from Star Trek by several years. They go out on missions to stop their main adversary Thrush at the request of the leader of U.N.C.L.E, Alexander Waverly, played by Leo G. Carroll, who you might know from being over a barrel when Tarantula took for the hills. Every episode was some sort of affair, that being their title gimmick, like this book's title, The Doomsday Affair. The show was quite popular for the time, and some spin-offs and sequels happened with the short-lived The Girl from U.N.C.L.E, but the main show was cancelled in the 4th season when it became too campy and cheesy at the request of producer Norman Felton. The entire cast, save for Leo G. Carroll, who had passed in the intervening time, reunited in 1983 for a reunion movie which was received rather well, though a new season didn't materialize to follow it. And I've already mentioned the recent attempt to bring it back, but despite a sequel tease at the end of the film, nothing has materialized aside from Armie Hammer saying that the movie is currently being written. Anyway, this novel has 3 stories that all connect. The first follows Napoleon tracking down a woman who wants to defect from Thrush and ends up dead because of it. Another involves Ilya being baited and captured by a mysterious Chinese man who had been reportedly killed in an accident years earlier, and the third involves the woman's friend who gets embroiled due to her connection to the woman and the mysterious Chinese man, all culminating in all the paths ending up at the same secret evil base. The story opens with Solo and Kuryakin in Hawaii, meeting with the woman named Ursula, a former Thrush agent, planning on defecting and giving them some much-needed intel on an agent named Yilno, his only alias, which is the words exit only backwards. She's killed by an explosive lei of flowers that was placed on her head at the airport when she landed, and Solo goes off after the person who gave it to her, and Kuryakin is tasked with calling the authorities and then making himself scarce before returning to base. However, following his attempt to get out of the hotel, he is confronted by a mysterious Chinese man named Sam, who forces him back into the room and then escapes right as the authorities show up and arrest Kuryakin. He escapes and heads out to find Sam, only to have Sam find him and drug him, leaving him appearing to have a mental impairment and unable to control his movements, before they capture him. Meanwhile, Napoleon attempts to track down Ursula's friend, Barbary Coast. He does, but she won't talk, fearing reprisal from Thrush. He manages to wear down her defenses with his charm, though unlike a lot of other spies, he's completely respectful to her. However, after he leaves her for a meeting with Waverly and the President's advisor, Osgood, not that one either. Definitely not that one. Man, Doctor Who has a lot of Osgoods. Anyway, they're meeting over Yilno, and he returns to find her hypnotized by Sam, and the two of them are captured, with her in a catatonic state, brought to the same place as Sam is keeping Kuryakin. Solo has to save Kuryakin and Barbary, and then stop Sam and Yilno from destroying the world. Napoleon tries to escape a few times, but on his own, without either Barbary or Kuryakin to help him, it's slow going and he's always recaptured. He eventually escapes up a vent shaft to learn the identity of Yilno is none other than the President's advisor, Osgood DeVry, who is mad that he's always passed over for promotion to the job that he desired most of all that the President promised him, the head of the CIA. His plan is to launch an atomic bomb at Washington, D.C., and since this is the 60s, Russia will be blamed, plunging the world into an all-out war. I notice that's the plan of a lot of bad guys during the Cold War. Launch a bomb and let the unstable diplomatic tensions do the rest of the work, destroying the world governments. Sam and Osgood disagree on when to launch it, since Sam thinks that Waverly could warn DC and ruin the plan. They do agree on one thing, though, the time frame. They're planning on launching it during a civil defense drill, so reaction will be slow, since at that point it was just a part of daily life, like fire drills in school. They realize that Solo's there, so they paralyze him with a nerve gas and drag him out of the vent shaft. They take him back to Kuryakin and Barbary, and Sam reveals that they only need one U.N.C.L.E agent to make a call to Waverly to say that they're fine, and Solo is the more unpredictable one, so he'll have to die. And it will be death by stabbing from Barbary, who is under a mind-control drug that makes her follow any order given, regardless of morality. Solo tries to make her stop, but he can't since he's still paralyzed and she won't listen to him. Kuryakin tries to help, but he's pretty helpless as well, being tied up across the room, though his faculties have been returned. Solo tells him that regardless of what happens to him or Barbary, that he must complete the mission, even if Solo and Barbary die in the process. The world is more important. But, just as Solo is prepared to die, Kuryakin breaks free of his bonds and knocks Barbary back and unties Solo. They start to get to work to stop the bomb, while stopping Barbary from killing Solo. They fill the room with anesthetic gas and put gas masks on themselves and Barbary so that any guard that comes in will die from an overdose, and also filter it into the air duct so that everyone else will be hit as well, stalling the operation. This, of course, leaves the bomb still in the building, and sitting in an elevator shaft, not having been put in the plane yet, as they were being very careful with it, since it's jury-rigged together. However, the elevator starts falling down the long elevator shaft, only giving the trio enough time to escape, without being able to bring Sam or DeVry to justice. They rush out and steal DeVry's car, but as they rush away from the underground atomic explosion, they find that Sam sabotaged the car, and they have to grab Barbary and get out of the speeding Rolls-Royce before it explodes, ending the novel. We'll be right back with more of the show. This is Maverick reporting in. We're back. Everyone seems pretty in character based on their characterizations on the show. Solo is as suave as ever, and Kuryakin is, well, like on the show, he's rather reserved, and we don't really know that much about him, apart from the mission. Solo was originally intended to be the main character, and so is like the Kirk of the show, being warm and the one who gets connected to the mission. Kuryakin is like the Spock, not so much in that he's cold and unfeeling, but he's reserved. They don't get to hang out that much in the book, but from what we do see of them together, they're great partners, perfectly in sync with each other's plans. Apparently, the first book had Kuryakin's role being smaller, since, like I said, Solo was initially the only man from U.N.C.L.E, and it's much more developed in this book, but I can't imagine by much, since he's not very developed at all. We don't get that much of Barbary, her being hypnotized for a good chunk of the novel, let alone anything from Ursula. Makes me think that Whittington might be a fan of a certain Green Lantern comic. U.N.C.L.E, or DeVry, is utterly insane. Unlike Sam Suyan, who seems to be smart and calculated, taking every caution necessary to achieve his goals, DeVry has gone off the deep end. Case in point, while monologuing to Solo, he says that he was angry that he was passed over for promotion, and the reasoning was, get this, he was rated as a security risk. Now, I can't think of any logical reason why they'd rate him as a security risk. It's not like he'd ever snap and threaten the world with a nuclear weapon or something. Well, now that I actually say it out loud, Sam is honestly a better villain than U.N.C.L.E. He's the one who does most of the legwork for the evil plans anyway, likely to preserve the twist of U.N.C.L.E.'s identity. But even then, the reveal isn't very shocking. Let's see, we have an evil mastermind, and this presidential advisor shows up while they talk about U.N.C.L.E. and Thrush's plans. Wonder who could be the big bad. And we don't get that much of Waverly aside from him advising the mission and checking their progress. The book's action is a little subpar. A big issue is that we have a lot of long and drawn-out plot lines with the three stories, but it's just the same thing over and over again. Solo goes off alone, Ilya gets captured, Solo goes back, Solo gets captured, Ilya is hypnotized, Barbary is hypnotized. There's so much retreading, and it's not like the book is all that long. It's 152 pages. There are some cool fights, like the chase that Solo goes through to find the girl who gave the lay to Ursula, and then Kuryakin's escape from prison, but other than that, it's talk. On top of that, the ending is super rushed. Normally, the way I'd want a spy story to develop is to have the confrontation with the main bad guy happen at the end of the third quarter of the book, and have the rest of the runtime reserved for stopping the bad guy. It gives enough time for fighting and a suitable ending with a suitable payoff. This book doesn't really have a payoff. It's a huge pacing issue, similar in some ways to Quantum Leap Prelude, with the ending happening super fast, but Prelude had an advantage because it leads directly into the first episode of Quantum Leap, whereas this book's fallout is never addressed and we're left to come up with our own ending. Obviously, they make it back to U.N.C.L.E, but whatever happens to Barbary Coast? Is she ever taken out of the hypnosis or saved from the nerve gas? Does she get put into witness protection to save her from Thrush? It's not addressed, and that hurts the novel. It's at best a mediocre spy story, but it's a god-awful Man from U.N.C.L.E. story. It's like the author didn't know how to write Ilya or women, and so that's why Ilya and the sole female character in the novel are relegated to being sidelined by drugs and hypnosis. I wouldn't say that this is the worst licensed book I've ever read, but I can definitely say that it does not do the series justice. I can't in good conscience recommend the book, because it's not a good representation of what it's supposed to be telling a story of. If this was an actual episode of the show, it would have been one of the worst. I suppose that it shows events that couldn't have been portrayed on TV at the time, but frankly that's not enough to justify it for me. If you're a fan and can't get enough Man from U.N.C.L.E, I'd say skip this one. Maybe the others are better, but this is the only one that I've read, and so far I'm not impressed. If you're not a fan and want to get into the series, but don't want to dedicate yourself to 4 seasons, try the recent film adaptation. It's not perfect by any means, but it inspired me to get into the series, and it might just do the same for you. And that was The Man from U.N.C.L.E, The Doomsday Affair. Was it good? No, it was not. It was boring, had pacing issues everywhere, uneven villains where the lead villain was less compelling than his lackey, and sidelines 2 characters for seemingly no reason other than the author could only manage to write Napoleon solo. Likely because Solo is the most similar to a hard-boiled detective compared to Kuryakin. The ending is unsatisfying, and instead of leaving me wanting more, it makes me want less, and makes me wish that I hadn't read the novel. They say that you can't judge a book by its cover, but based on the cover, I should have known that this was going to be a disgrace to the agency. Anyway, as Mike would say, that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more of the Literary Lair, you can hit that subscribe button, and if you have any comments or complaints about the video, you can put those in the comments section below. Maybe tell them that you'd like me as the permanent host as a gag. Oh, and be sure to hit that bell icon if you want to be notified of new uploads. And if you enjoyed this video, show it to your friends and share it around the internet. And maybe consider supporting the show on Patreon. See you next time. If only. Well, it looks like everything's in order. We can start whenever you're ready. Then let's begin then. You'll have to beam me into the pattern buffer first. The localized stasis field conked out this morning, so I'm not as stable as I'd like. And then all I have to do is beam up your double, get his pattern, and then beam you both back to your respective locations. Precisely. Good luck. Thanks, I need it. But I think you're gonna need it more. Let's do this. Mike Sano has been placed into the pattern buffer. Iota, what happened? Something has gone wrong in attempting to beam up the subject from dimension HTHR3. Something went wrong? What do you mean, something? The cause of the error is unknown. Recommend putting more power into the transport beam. Got it. Subject has been placed into the pattern buffer. Analysis shows that the transporter patterns are unstable. Suggest aborting the process to prevent permanent damage to both subjects. Crap, let's abort. Like Sano!